Indiana line, just on the other side of I-80. This rotation will be going over I-80 at any time now, and then we'll have to see as it continues to move to the northeast. Hopefully, radar scans will show that it is weakening, but at this time, we're not sure of that, and that's why the National Weather Service is out with this tornado warning. You see the red box, and you see some of the areas that we're talking about. You see where Kinderhook is. There's the latest on that tornado warning there. Again, this goes until 6 o'clock. Right now, they're calling it radar indicated, but earlier, as this storm moved through LaGrange County, there was observed a tornado. There has been observed damage from this tornado by spotters. And so whether it's still on the ground or not is questionable as it moves toward I-80. That dark green or the bright green that you see is where we're seeing some of that rotation. It doesn't look as impressive as it did, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes ago, but impressive enough for the National Weather Service to issue this tornado warning that not only covers, of course, northeast LaGrange County, but because the storm is moving to the northeast, it's headed your way there in southwest Branch County. You see Coldwater on the map there as Colin pulls it out just a little bit. So we're not talking about Coldwater yet, but you definitely need to be on guard if you're in Coldwater, if you're in Girard. Now, if you're along US 12, going all the way down to about Bronson, then you certainly need to be on guard. And if you are in a line from Bronson to Kinderhook on I-69 southwest, including Gilead, that's where you need to be taking cover because this is headed your way. You see right there, Indiana 120, which is just to the south of I-80. That's where this rotation is right now. So the rotation is going to be somewhere between that Indiana Highway and I-80, which runs right along the Michigan-Indiana line. If this continues, the cell itself is going to be moving to the northeast. That's no doubt. The question is, will we continue to see evidence of rotation with this? This has been an observed tornado on the ground doing damage in LaGrange County starting about 25 minutes ago. And now as that cell moves closer to Branch County, that's why the warning's out from the National Weather Service. And so Branch County, the area that you see right there that's shaded in red or boxed in red is where we have this tornado warning. You need to be taking cover if you're in the area around Gilead, Bronson, Kinderhook. You need to be taking cover if you're close to the Michigan-Indiana line there in Branch County. If you're just to the north of I-80, for example, you certainly need to be taking cover as this cell moves off to the northeast. You see Collins put a track on this, moving into Gilead there in about 20 minutes. And then moving into Kinderhook, West Kinderhook there, which is going to be close to I-69. That would be by 6:09. So that's another 32 minutes away. Now, by then, the warning will have expired, and we'll have to wait and see what the National Weather Service is going to determine what to do with this tornado warning. But right now, it looks like the focus of the cell, the rotation, is right there on the easternmost LaGrange County line, just to the south of I-80, and right close to the Michigan-Indiana line. That's where Colin has it right there. You can see that bright green, and that's where we're looking at the circulation. And again, that is I-80 is the blue marker there. Indiana 120 is the highway that you see to the south of I-80. So if those sound familiar to you and you're in southern Branch County, then you definitely need to be taking cover as this continues to move to the northeast. There has been a history of damage with this. There has been a tornado that has been observed by spotters, and it was observed doing damage as it was moving through LaGrange County. Now, that was about 15 to 20 minutes ago. And so if it's still on the ground, we're not sure yet. We are noting here that it's radar indicated, but earlier it was observed. And so as the cell continues to move to the northeast, the threat, the danger is, of course, for it to cross I-80 and to cross into southern Branch County. And as it does, if it does with rotation, then, of course, we've got a major problem on our hands here. So if you are south of Bronson, south of US 12, and if you are west of I-69 and a line from Bronson to Kinderhook, that includes Gilead. You see Noble on the map there. Then you need to be taking cover. Certainly for the folks in northern Indiana there, around the township there, or the place called Millgrove there, need to be taking cover in that spot as well. This is going to be moving right over Indiana 120, and then right over that major toll road there, I-80, which of course is a major thoroughfare for trucks going through there. And so that'll be interesting to see as it continues to move through. Hopefully, we'll notice in future scans here that the signal for tornado will be weakening or lessening somewhat, although don't necessarily see that right now. So again, just a reminder, if you're just tuning in, if you are in Southwest Branch County, you need to be taking cover because we have a tornado warning that is in effect for 20 more minutes. It goes until 6 o'clock. Not only Branch County, but just across the line there in Steuben County and then LaGrange County. LaGrange County on that map is on the west side of that county line. Steuben County is on the east side. When you take I-69 south into Indiana, heading toward Angola, for example, you're going into Steuben County. But right now, the focus of this cell, the potential rotation, is right along Indiana 120, right there in northeast LaGrange County. Colin's tracking this with me. Colin, what do you have?
Yeah, so we just have another report from the National Weather Service. We do have another spotter that confirmed the tornado is back on the ground a few minutes ago, southwest of Orland. That, of course, being down in Indiana. So I'll go ahead and zoom in here, and we can see exactly where Orland is. I believe it's just southwest of Millgrove.
Yeah, it is. It's just to the east side of the county border there. I mean, that is right on the county border there with Steuben County and LaGrange County in northern Indiana. But I mean, we're talking just a few miles, 2 to 3 miles max, south of the Michigan-Indiana line. That's why this is a concern for Branch County, because if it continues moving to the northeast, which it will, and with another late report of the tornado still being on the ground, this is definitely a threat for folks along the Michigan-Indiana line, stretching northward all the way up to Bronson and over to Kinderhook. Bronson along US 12, they just revised the box. You can see they just changed the box. And so they've pulled it to the east just a little bit. Bronson, you're still right up there on the edge, but I think now the focus is going to be moving right there around Indiana 120 and then moving up to I-80. So Gilead Township certainly in the path here. You need to be taking cover. Kinderhook, you need to be at least ready to make a move if you're not already making a move toward taking cover there as this continues to the northeast. The reason you see that red box flashing on our screen is because the National Weather Service just adjusted it, and that's letting us know that the National Weather Service has just revisited that tornado warning to update it. And part of that update also means now it is an observed tornado. It still goes until 6, but it basically refines that path just a little bit. And so that means even more now if you are north of I-80, which means that you're going to be in southern Michigan there, in southern Branch County, that you should be taking cover. We're talking about Gilead and also to Bethel. Bethel, you're not in the box. Kinderhook, you're not in the box. Bronson, you're not in the box, but you're very close. And as this continues to move to the northeast, if it doesn't change its characteristics there, it will be a threat to Coldwater coming up in the next 45 minutes or so. So that's what we're tracking right now, a severe thunderstorm that is moving to the northeast. And with that current speed, as Colin tracks it there, headed toward West Kinderhook, that would be at 6:06. That would be on the west side of I-69, and then moving into around Bethel there, and then eventually making its way toward Coldwater there in about another 54 minutes. That would be 54 minutes. By then, it might have weakened, could keep the strength. We don't know. But right now, that we do know is that for the next 17 minutes, the National Weather Service is continuing with this tornado warning. And as Colin mentioned, this has a history of doing damage in northern Indiana.
Yeah, Keith, I want to mention too, it's not necessarily staying on the ground for a long time. It's been dropping a tornado for a little bit of time, lifting, dropping again. So that could continue to be the case as we look further into Branch County as this storm continues to track off to the north and the east.
And Colin right now is monitoring news coming out of the National Weather Service office as well as emergency management offices and spotter reports. And so that's the latest information that you can get there. As it continues to move to the northeast, it looks like now it would be getting closer to I-80 and closer to the Michigan-Indiana line. So tornado warning for southwest Branch County. You see the red box there. If you're in Gilead Township, you need to be taking cover. If you are in Kinderhook, you need to be ready to go. If you're in Bronson, though you're likely out of the line of fire in Bronson, but you certainly need to be on guard. If you are south of US 12 and west of I-69, south of US 12, west of I-69, north of 80, of course, which would put you in Branch County, then you certainly need to be taking cover because this storm has an observed tornado. It has been observed over several miles, as Colin said, seems to be bopping up and down there, and then also doing damage in LaGrange County, which is still about where it is right now. It is right now right on the county line there, just to the west of Orland, which is in northwesternmost Steuben County in northern Indiana. So it's right along the LaGrange-Steuben County line there, which is right bordering Branch County. That's why Branch County is included in this warning that goes for another 15 minutes until 6 o'clock. Of course, the National Weather Service is continuing to monitor its radar reports coming in from live Doppler radar there to determine if there is still evidence of circulation. Of course, what's better than radar indicated as far as accuracy goes is whenever spotters have observed a tornado, and that has happened with this cell several times, along with damage that has already been documented in northeast LaGrange County. So this is not only a tornado that has been observed on the ground, it has also been observed doing damage as it moves to the northeast. So if you're in Gilead Township, if you're in Branch County, this is right along the Michigan-Indiana line. Certainly now you need to be taking cover. If you are south of Gilead, if you're near Gilead, if you're south of Bronson, if you're west of I-69 and south of US 12, close to Gilead, then you certainly need to be taking cover as this continues to move to the northeast. Colin's continuing to monitor any of the latest news and updates to come out of the Weather Service, as well as emergency management officials who are on the ground, of course, in northern Indiana right now. You can see the latest track on this still has it in West Kinderhook. That would be, again, just to the west of I-69. We're talking west of I-69, West Kinderhook, coming your way in about another 21 minutes. That gives you 20 minutes to take cover, so that's plenty of time. The same for Bethel there, 613 there, as that continues to move through Branch County. Coldwater, we're going to keep an eye on it. That is 42 minutes away, or 52 minutes away, rather, from Coldwater, which gives us plenty of time to see if it's going to change its characteristics, to see maybe if it will weaken. But for now, we're on the air, wall to wall here, because we're tracking a tornado warning for southwestern Branch County. This storm popped up in a hurry. A bit of a surprise there, as it's the only thing that's going on with this cluster of thunderstorms area-wide. It doesn't matter because spotters have seen a tornado here on the ground doing damage. Right now, it is right on the Steuben-LaGrange County line near Orland in northeast Indiana, about to make its crossover into southwest Branch County, crossing over I-80 there. And as it continues to move to the northeast, it could continue to produce this tornado, waiting for further guidance from the National Weather Service, which will come our way, hopefully, before we get to that expiration time of 6 o'clock. So once again, we're on the air right now to tell you about a tornado warning if you're in southwest Branch County, if you're south of Bronson, if you're in this polygon here that you see, this red shape that you have here. In particular now, if you are closer to I-80, certainly if you're along that Michigan-Indiana line, you must be taking cover right now in Branch County, or if you're in northern Indiana, the same. But Gilead Township, you should be taking cover. West Kinderhook, you should be taking cover. Along I-69, we need to monitor. North of Kinderhook, as we get closer to Coldwater, we've got a little time to monitor this storm, but you need to be thinking about your safety plan right now if you're in the Coldwater area. If you're along US 12 between Coldwater and Bronson, the storm is headed that way. It's headed toward I-69 as well. So in those areas, outside of the box, outside of the red tornado box, you still need to be thinking about what you're going to do if this storm does not weaken any at all. Colin continuing to track it here, putting another track on it. This warning goes for 12 more minutes. It goes until 6 o'clock. There you see West Kinderhook still looking at about 606, 606, 607, Bethel at about 612, Coldwater headed your way 636. You see we have some other smaller locations. If those locations look familiar to you and you're in Branch County, then that means you need to be thinking about taking cover. Certainly in Bethel, certainly in West Kinderhook and in Gilead, you need to be taking cover in all of those areas because this storm is headed your way. It does look like to me from the returns that it's starting to weaken just a little bit. Not seeing as much of evidence there of any kind of rotation, although could be to the east of Orland there, southeast of Orland in northwest Steuben County. But we'll have to wait and see what another scan brings us on that. It is headed toward I-69. It'll be crossing over the Michigan-Indiana line. It looks to me right now like the focus of this is now moving out of LaGrange County into northwest Steuben County, right over I-80 right now, right about over I-80. And so, of course, if you move it northeast over I-80, you know the next stop is the Michigan-Indiana line, and then it will cross into Branch County. That's why we're on the air right now. The time is 5:50, which means we have 10 minutes left on this tornado warning from the National Weather Service. You see Branch County is included in that, as well as LaGrange and Steuben County. That's in northern Indiana, and it's for an observed tornado. This has been observed a few times in LaGrange County, Indiana, not only observed on the ground, but observed doing damage. Now that it's moving to the northeast, we'll have to keep an eye on this as well to see if there's any more development with it. Meteorologist Colin Rogers is not only tracking it for us here with our graphics, but is also monitoring the latest information coming out of the National Weather Service office in northern Indiana, as well as emergency management officials, which right now are having to deal with this storm and any damage that it's done there in LaGrange County as it moves out of LaGrange County into Steuben County. Next stop is going to be Branch County. That's why we're letting you know in Gilead, for example, south of Bronson, west of I-69, west of Kinderhook, you need to be taking cover. Again, if you're out in that area, all the way down to I-80 in northern Indiana. As the storm continues to move to the northeast, I'm not sure of the speed of that and the motion of that.
Northeast at 20 miles per hour.
At 20 miles an hour, so it's not moving very fast. That's one reason why, of course, you can tell it's taking its time getting over I-80 as it's approaching the Branch County line. But coming up in 9 minutes, 8.5 minutes to be exact, the National Weather Service is either going to have to decide to let this warning expire, which would be indication that they have confidence that there's no longer rotation or that it hasn't been spotted, or they're going to extend this, which will move it then through Branch County and get it closer to Coldwater, which we'll have to keep an eye on it. It does look like perhaps on the back side of that there could be back in northeast LaGrange County some more development. You can see the red, that maroon that's showing up there on the radar where Colin is pointing right now. And if that develops on the next scan, then that's definitely a sign of some rotation that's going on there along Indiana 120. I know a lot of this right now is going on in northern Indiana, but it's headed northeast. It's headed into Branch County, and it will be. This cell will be crossing into Branch County here in the next 10, 20, 30 minutes. And as it does, it could be bringing that rotation right along with it. So that's why we're on the air right now, live coverage of a tornado warning here that covers a portion of northeast Indiana and then also covers a portion of Branch County as well. And so that's what we're watching right now as it continues to move off to the northeast. This has a history of producing a tornado that has been noted to do some damage. Colin's putting a track on it right now. You see it moving into Girard, coming up here before we get to the top of the hour here. That would be coming up at 5:55, and then Gilead by 6. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Orland at 5:55. You see that? We see where Orland is right there on the map. That is right on that border that you see there, that straight line. That is the Steuben LaGrange County line in northern Indiana. But you see where I-80 is, and if you're familiar with that area, you know that I-80 runs parallel right there along the Michigan-Indiana line. So once it moves to the north of Orland, it's basically crossing over into Branch County. It's going to be in Michigan then. So if you are west of Kinderhook, if you are south of US 12, in that area there, then you need to be taking cover. Colin.
Looks like we have another tornado warning for south central Cass County now in Michigan. Looks like they issued another tornado warning for radar indicated rotation. So we're going to go ahead and scoot this over here, and you can start to see that rotation showing up there. And once again, northern Indiana, just northeast of South Bend. Yeah,
that's going to be along I-80 too for some rotation that's going on there. That would take it into the Edwardsburg area, for example. This warning goes until 6:30. This is radar indicated. Again, this is starting to get active now here in northern Indiana, but these cells are moving to the northeast. So if you are in southern Cass County, if you are around Edwardsburg right now, for example, if you are along US 12 here, then you need to be taking cover. Certainly in northern Indiana, around Granger to the northeast of South Bend, right along the Michigan-Indiana line here as well, you need to be taking cover. This is radar indicated. So then going back to the east on this one here, the one that's going into Branch County, continuing to keep an eye on that. It doesn't look as impressive with this latest scan, but the warning will continue for another 5 minutes and 15 seconds. So we'll have some clarity coming up on this cell in about another 5 minutes. And then, of course, we'll have to turn our focus back to the one that now is moving out of South Bend and making a beeline there, it looks like, toward Cass County. In the meantime, Gilead, you need to be taking cover. If you're in Kinderhook, certainly West Kinderhook, you should be taking cover. This is going to be crossing the Michigan-Indiana line anytime now. I mean, it really should be right over I-80 right now. I-80, which, as you know, is just a mile or two south of the Michigan-Indiana line. This is right on the border with Steuben, LaGrange, and Branch County. Actually, where all three of those county borders there intersect. That's where we're talking about this cell now, about to move to the northeast, which would put it getting close to Gilead and then making a beeline toward Bethel there. We'll see in the next 4.5 minutes if the National Weather Service is getting reports of this to see if it's continuing to have rotation or if it continues to be a threat. That's one of two warnings now. The other moving into Cass County. Well, this one is still in northeast Indiana. It's in northeast St. Joe County, which is South Bend, St. Joe County, Indiana, northeast St. Joe County, Indiana, approaching Granger right along I-80. Boy, I-80 seems to be a rough go right now with two tornado warnings that are draped across it there. That one is headed into Cass County. It goes until 6:30. Edwardsburg, you need to be thinking about taking cover there as well.
So they just extended the tornado warning in Branch County. It now goes until 6:30 p.m. So they have kept that warning going. We don't have confirmation that it's on the ground right now, but we do have a little bit of rotation showing up on radar. So they went ahead and extended that tornado warning a little further north and east into Branch County. It looks like we're getting a few more scans on radar that are showing maybe that rotation starting to tighten up a little more.
Yeah, this would be moving to the southeast of Gilead, more aimed at Bethel. So if you're in that area, you need to be certainly paying attention. If you're in the box or the polygon here or the shape that you see in red, you need to be taking cover. So this is going to be south of US 12 and then also to the west of I-69. So this now does cover, this new box does cover I-69, Kinderhook, and south of Coldwater. Batavia, you're right on the edge of the border there. So you need to be taking cover if you're here as well. So what we're going to see at 6 o'clock is we're going to see the one box move away. It's probably going to go away, and it will be replaced by the second box. As Colin tracks this off to the northeast, Bethel by 6:15, and then Coldwater by about 6:40. So you got about 30 minutes in Coldwater. So you need to be thinking about this 30 to 40 minutes in Coldwater as we're going to continue to track this moving off to the northeast. That is moving northeast at about 20. It's not moving very fast. In the meantime, the other tornado warning that now covers a portion of Cass County. This covers you there in Edwardsburg for a cell that is still south of I-80 there. So it's still in northeast St. Joe, Indiana. St. Joe County, Indiana, northeast of South Bend. But as this moves off to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour, we're looking at Granger at 6:12. We're looking at Calvin there at 6:56. As that is in Cass County, that would put it between M60 and US 12, between M60 and US 12. We're going to have to continue to keep an eye on that. We're live right now with tornado coverage because we have a tornado warning that covers portion of Branch County. In a minute and a half, you're going to see one of those boxes go away. It'll be replaced or left with the second one that is more to the northeast there, as that one is the one that is of primary concern now. If you're US 12, that line that goes from US 12 southwest of Coldwater, crossing I-69 north of Kinderhook. Now it stretches to the east of I-69. The box does anyway. And then over toward Gilead and East Gilead. That's where we're looking at. So this is now probably right over the Michigan-Indiana line right now, if it's not already crossed over into Branch County, into Indiana. This cell has a history of producing a tornado that was observed to be doing some damage. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one. These scans don't look as impressive, but you never know with these. And of course, if the warning is out there, we're going to stay on the air and we're going to let you know about it because this is certainly information that you need. This warning now goes until 6:30. It goes until 6:30. This was extended by the National Weather Service. And again, they have some confidence that this is going to continue to be a threat, at least for the next 10 to 15 minutes. They might decide to cancel it early, but right now it's going to go until 6:30. And this cell, as it's continuing to move to the northeast, will eventually be visiting you there in Coldwater. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to be thinking about your safety plan if you're in Coldwater. Continuing to watch this cell in northeast, that's northeast of South Bend. That warning goes until 6:30 as well. That's for southern Cass County. That would be Edwardsburg included in that. But again, back over toward the east there, this is the one in Branch County. Now it's 6 o'clock, so you see we're down to just that one box. So this is now moving into southern Branch County.
Yeah, so if you're just now joining us for News Channel 3 live at 6, we are tracking this tornado warning. It was on the ground a little bit earlier. We don't have confirmation that it's on the ground right now as this storm begins to move into Branch County. But either way, producing heavy rain, gusty winds, and we are seeing rotation on radar right now. So, of course, this tornado has dropped, it's lifted, it's dropped, it's lifted, and that trend could continue as this storm continues to move to the north and the east into Branch County.
But spotters have noted there was damage with this tornado in LaGrange County, in northern Indiana there. So this does have a history of producing a damaging tornado. That, from spotters anyway, reporting to emergency management officials. It looks like it could be weakening just a little bit. Hopefully that's the case, but it is in Branch County right now. So if you are in Branch County, if you are in southwest Branch County, if you are around East Gilead, you really should be taking cover right now. You need to be doing whatever your safety plan calls for so that you are being safe. If you are to the northeast, as you see, Colin has tracked this up toward Coldwater at 6:44, still 43 minutes away. A lot could happen with that storm between now and then, but you need to stay with us so that you can be safe, and you need to be thinking about what you might be doing to stay safe here coming up in about half an hour or so if this continues on its current path. It will continue moving to the northeast, likely at about 20, but what we don't know is, will any kind of rotation dissipate? Will it lift back up into the cloud? Will it become non-tornado warned? That we'll have to keep an eye on. But right now, if you're in Branch County, if you're in East Gilead, if you're in Gilead, if you're in Bethel, if you're in Kinderhook, if you're in Crystal Beach there, right along I-69, all the way up to Batavia, you need to be taking cover. Bronson, you're outside of that area right now. It looks like you're probably going to be in the clear, at least as far as this cell is concerned, as it moves to the northeast. But as Colin showed you with that arrow just a few moments ago, it's that brighter green that we're looking at there. And that's what was going to be moving to the northeast here, crossing the Michigan-Indiana line. It's hovering right along the border right now, right along I-80. Could be a little bit north of that, could be right there in southern lower Michigan. But either way, it's in that vicinity there as it continues to move relatively slowly, really, for one of these cells at only about 20 miles per hour. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. If you're in that area, you certainly need to be taking cover. No change to the tornado warning for the area northeast of South Bend. That's northeast St. Joe County, Indiana. That does stretch into southern Cass County. That's what Colin is spotting for you here as well. Granger, of course, is in Indiana. But then when you move north of Granger, you're getting close to Edwardsburg there, and that's where we're in Michigan there. That's in southern Cass County. So in that particular area, you need to be taking cover as well around Edwardsburg, and you need to be paying attention if you're in Cassopolis or in Vandalia there, because that could be the next stop for this particular cell. So tornado warning goes until 6:30. For the cell that is in Branch County. As we've been telling you, the reason that we're on the air, if you tune in to watch News Channel 3 live at 6, we are right now doing wall-to-wall coverage of this tornado warning for this cell that now is moving right along the Michigan-Indiana line, moving to the northeast. At any time now, will be moving up into southern Branch County, west of I-69, south of US 12, and really to the east of Gilead. Gilead's in the zone there, but we're really talking about to the east of Gilead. So in the center of that triangle, if you will, is what we're looking at there. So east of Gilead, west of I-69, where Colin right now is focusing. That's where we need to focus our attention right now. So that's what we're looking at for this tornado warning as it moves to the northeast. This is an observed, or it has been an observed tornado. It's gone back to being radar indicated, but spotters have noted not only this tornado touching down in northeast LaGrange County, which is in Indiana, but also doing damage there as well. This has a history of producing damage. And so that's why we're on the air right now, to let you know if you're in this vicinity here, then you need to be taking cover. This goes all the way up to I-69. Coldwater not there yet, but as you can see by 6:44, it's expected to be over that. Meteorologist Colin Rogers is not only here showing us the graphics, tracking it, but he's also keeping an eye on emergency management reports and the latest to come out of the National Weather Service, which of course is monitoring radar returns that are coming in from live Doppler radar to get an idea as to whether this may be lifting, perhaps, or maybe just dissipating and weakening, which would be great news, of course, as it moves into Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, the last report we've had of a tornado on the ground was, of course, 25 minutes ago back down in Orland. Doesn't mean that there's not a tornado on the ground, but we do have a little bit of, it looks like we have a spotter confirmed some light rotation, that coming in from Steuben County, Indiana.
Yeah.
And so we'll continue to watch both those storms. Right now, we have the one, of course, in Branch County, and then also some rotation going on just south of Cass County.
And so, if you have traveled I-69 out of Michigan and into Indiana, when you cross over the state line, you're in Steuben County. So that should give you some idea. If you've been there, then you have been into Steuben County. This is only a small part of Steuben County. Most of this warning is now for Branch County, as you see south of Coldwater to Kinderhook, and then west of Kinderhook, west of I-69 to Gilead, and then north to US 12, just to the east of Bronson. So that's the area that we're concerned with right now. From radar returns, it doesn't look nearly as impressive as it did just even 10 minutes ago. So hopefully that's a good sign. No doubt the National Weather Service is going to play it safe with this and see what a couple of more scans indicate as far as any kind of rotation goes. But right now, as long as you're in the warning, Kinderhook and Gilead, as long as you're in the warning south of US 12 and west of I-69, you need to be taking cover. The center of this storm, if you will, or the focus of this storm right now, it does look like to me it's getting a little more diffuse as it moves into southern Branch County. Hopefully that's a good sign, but for now, that is an active warning that goes until 6:30. The warning continues as well for a cell now that is moving through northeast St. Joe, Indiana County. And just if you're wondering, there's a St. Joe, Michigan, of course. That, of course, is Centerville, that is Three Rivers, that is Sturgis, but South Bend is in St. Joe County, Indiana. And so this warning covers northeast St. Joe County, Indiana, including Granger, as you see, and Granger is right there along the Michigan-Indiana line, and then it goes to the north, which puts it in Cass County, up to Cassopolis there. And we're talking about running along M62, which runs right to the county or the state border. M62 to the state border, and of course, that's also where it starts to cross US 12. So if that sounds familiar to you, then you need to be taking cover in that area as well. That goes until 6:30. We'll wait and see on that. Also, the warning area for Branch County goes until 6:30. The radar returns do not look as impressive right now. This is still radar indicated, but this does have a history. This storm produced tornadoes that are a tornado anyway that was observed at times from spotters in northeast LaGrange County, which is in northern Indiana there, and also has a history, according to spotters, of doing damage. That's from the National Weather Service.
Yeah, I mean, the latest from the National Weather Service, exactly what we're observing. This storm that's moved into Branch County has weakened considerably. It's getting now north of that warm front. So it should start to lose its punch. And we'll hope that continues, certainly, as this cell is heading towards Coldwater. They haven't had any reports over the last 25 minutes, 30 minutes of any tornadoes on the ground. This cell has had a history of dropping some tornadoes, though, in the past and producing some damage down in Indiana. So we'll go ahead and continue to watch this. The good news, though, is we haven't had any reports over the last several minutes. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and show the Coldwater camera now and show you a live look at the clouds and the rain falling there in Coldwater.
There you go. You can see the Coldwater camera there and see if we have any wind associated with that. Now remember, the storm itself is well to the southwest, or it's southwest of Coldwater. I think as Colin put a track on a little bit earlier, it's still about 6:40-ish before we get to Coldwater, so still about 30 miles, or 30 minutes, I should say, to the south. But again, if it's only moving 20 miles an hour, then of course that would mean that it's not that far from Coldwater. You know, we're looking at the trees here as well. You know, I know the rain is sort of inhibiting our look just a bit, but if you look on the bottom right corner, you can see a little bit there of the trees there that are right outside the parking lot there where the Goodwill is there. This is the Willowbrook Tower camera looking live from Coldwater over I-69. Rain obviously is coming down pretty good. Must be a little bit of wind here, but it doesn't look to be too significant right now. But this is a live look at Coldwater over I-69. This would be to the southwest, of course, of where this storm is. But as Colin just mentioned, the National Weather Service is now noting, which radar returns would suggest, that this is weakening pretty rapidly. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually, or soon maybe even, will have that warning canceled. That would be nice. But still, you're in it in Kinderhook and in Bethel. So you need to be taking cover, as there likely will be some wind with this as it moves to the northeast. So again, it's still south of Coldwater. We were just looking at Coldwater just there. You know, we're looking here, as you remember, you know, we're looking for those reds and greens together, or those maroons and dark greens together. We were seeing it plainly in northeast Indiana a little bit ago. It seems to have lost that characteristic. And as Colin mentioned from the National Weather Service, it seems to be weakening quickly. And so we're going to continue to look at that as well. As we move also to Cass County, we're watching a storm cell that is now in just south of Granger. This is also crossing I-80, but the warning does extend up to Cass County. So the intersection there of US 12 and M62, that's Edwardsburg, you are in that warning area right now. And so you need to be taking cover if you're around Edwardsburg in southern Cass County.
Yeah, that tornado was confirmed on the ground a little bit ago, but the good news is they haven't gotten any confirmation lately of it on the ground. So now that tornado warning is radar indicated. So there's a little bit of rotation still showing up on radar right now that we're showing you just south of Granger, right around I-80. But we don't have confirmation that this is on the ground at this time as this storm continues to trek a little closer to Cass County.
Yeah, and it's right now running close to I-80. So if you're familiar with that area, I-80 northeast of South Bend, that's what we're talking about with that warning. The warning for Branch County. So again, you're still, even though we talk about, and the National Weather Service has mentioned that this cell that was very potent coming out of northern Indiana seems to be losing strength rapidly. Let's go back to our Coldwater camera as this is getting closer to Coldwater, the city of Coldwater's camera, the Willowbrook Tower camera here, and we'll give it an idea. There you can see what it looks like there right now. This is I-69 north-south.
And the good news is that tornado warning has been canceled for Branch County. So now, right now, we're just tracking that tornado warning. That's for southern Cass County, but the tornado warning in Branch County has been canceled. They've lost sight of that rotation. The storm has significantly weakened. Obviously, there's still a lot of rain coming down as we look over I-69 and Coldwater. You can see that rain coming down. The wind, though, doesn't look to be too aggressive, and we touched on this a little bit earlier. There's a warm front set up just south of the Michigan-Indiana line, and that's where we can sometimes see enough rotation that we have these little tornadoes spinning up. But now as it gets further to the north, that's when these storms start to weaken, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now in that storm in Branch County. So this is good news. That tornado warning has been canceled for Branch County. We could still see some heavy rain with this storm, maybe some 30, 40 mile per hour winds, but that tornado threat is no longer there, and that's why the National Weather Service has went ahead and expired that tornado warning for Branch County. So you can see that box no longer there in Branch County, just some moderate to heavy rainfall as that cell continues to track off to the east. But you'll even notice the rain how much that's kind of fizzled out as this storm continues to move to the north and the east. And we've also seen that wind calming down as well. But here's that tornado warning still in effect for southern Cass County. It's also in St. Joe County in Indiana, but we also have that tornado warning in effect for southern Cass County. The rotation looks to be just south of Granger is where we're seeing that a little bit of rotation. Earlier, it was confirmed on the ground. Right now, you can see that those lighter shades of green and red kind of becoming a little duller. That's indicating that we have some broad rotation. That's good news. This storm looks to be weakening as it moves off to the north and the east, but there is still some broad rotation showing up on velocity right now as we continue to track this just to the south of Granger. There is that radar indicated tornado warning for Cass County, southern Cass County. So if you're in the track of this storm, you still want to make sure to get in your safe place, get to the lowest, most interior room in your building of a sturdy structure, as we do have some rotation still. Right now it's in Indiana, but it's heading towards southern Cass County. So that's why the National Weather Service has issued that tornado warning for extreme southern Cass County. So I'll go ahead and lay a track over this. It's moving to the northeast at about 15 miles per hour. And so that puts it in moving into Michigan over the next 10 minutes or so. Calvin 704. So we still got a ways out before that happens. And the good news with this storm as well is you kind of notice it's weakening a little bit. The rotation's becoming more broad. With some of these other storms we've had, the one that was just south of Branch County earlier that did drop a tornado, it dropped a tornado, it lifted. It dropped another one, it lifted. And that's what we're seeing with these storms. They're not long track on the ground for a long time, but they do pose a threat for a brief tornado. So we'll want to make sure to get to our safe space. If you are in that tornado warning right now in southern Cass County in Michigan, you'll want to make sure to take action as this storm continues to move off to the north and the east very slowly, only moving at about 15 miles per hour. So it's not moving fast. And that's why it's taking pretty long time to get into Michigan. But right now, that circulation is right over I-80. So we do not have confirmation that this tornado is on the ground right now. That in St. Joe, Indiana County. But we do have a little bit of rotation still showing up on our velocity signature here. So that's why the National Weather Service has extended, or it continues to show this tornado warning until 6:30 for southern Cass County. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Right now, we still don't have any reports of rotation. We do have one report, actually. The storm just passed over a storm spotter's house in Granger, so saw no visible rotation. That rain coming down very heavy, but good news there is a storm spotter in Granger not seeing any rotation with this storm. So hopefully this continuing to weaken.
Yeah, and good news is that, of course, as Colin noted, the Branch County portion of this has now weakened considerably, so there's no more warning with that. We're going to follow this up until we get close to 6:30 with the tornado warning there for the cell that is in northeast Indiana, but if it continues to move to the northeast, of course, it could cross over into southern Cass County, and that's why we have an eye on it here, keeping an eye on it. So Edwardsburg, remember, you're in that box there. The box itself hasn't really changed much, or the shape there hasn't changed very much, and you can see there that it is to the northwest of Elkhart, but certainly in Edwardsburg, we're talked about M62 and US 12, that intersection there, that's Edwardsburg. And if you follow that north there, you head up toward Cassopolis. Cassopolis not included in this right now. And the cell seems to be sort of lurking there in northeastern St. Joe County, Indiana. Again, just a reminder, South Bend, Granger is in St. Joe County, Indiana. That, of course, is different than St. Joe County, Michigan. So that's what we're talking about here. And that box does extend northward into southern Cass County. As Colin has a track on it right there, you can see where it's going to be moving.
Yeah, so right over, we have circulation over I-80, but no confirmed tornado on the ground. So this thing very slowly moving up to the northeast at about 15 miles per hour. We'll, of course, monitor and see if the National Weather Service has any more updates. We aren't seeing any news from storm spotters in the area. Right now, they're not seeing any visible rotation, just looking up into the sky. So that's the good news there. I think just out of precaution, though, the National Weather Service has kept this tornado warning in place for southern Cass County and St. Joe County in Indiana, just because this storm does have a history of producing a tornado. A little bit earlier, about 30 minutes ago, we had a storm spotter confirm that there was a tornado on the ground. That's no longer the case, but sometimes with these storms that have a history of producing tornadoes, they can do it again pretty quickly. So just out of precaution, the National Weather Service continuing this tornado warning.
Very characteristic of the tornadoes around here, by the way. They're usually on the weaker side. They usually dance up and down, not on the ground for very long, but can do some damage. And of course, we'll have to wait and see how that verifies the reports coming out of Northeast LaGrange County in northern Indiana for that cell that moved into Branch County. But now we know as it was moving into Branch County, it was weakening rapidly. So good news for the folks in Branch County. Hopefully, we're going to be able to say the same about this cell, which right now is moving into easternmost St. Joe County, Indiana. It is right along I-80, just to the south of Granger. And so that would move it up into southern Cass County eventually. I think it's very interesting the way that they drew that line right there along the county border, because it looks like it's going to be making a run toward the border there northwest of Elkhart. But if you're in the box, no matter what it looks like, if you're in the box, you need to be taking cover. So certainly there, if you're in Edwardsburg, you need to be taking cover. It does look like the focus of this will miss you to the south and east, but there's no guarantee of that. And so if you're in Edwardsburg there, and that is at the intersection of M62 and US 12, you need to be taking cover if you're in that vicinity right there. As you can see Edwardsburg there on the map, as this moves to the northeast. As Colin noted, this had been spotted by a spotter, but now it's just radar indicated. We have about another 9 minutes to go on this tornado warning. The reason that we're on the air, and we have been for a little while now, first we were tracking a tornado warning that extended into Branch County. Fortunately, it looks like that turned out to be nothing for Branch County, probably something for northern Indiana. And now we're watching another cell that's right along I-80, just to the northeast of South Bend. And the current motion on that is going to be taking it into southern Cass County, south of US 12, close to M62, which would be in the Edwardsburg area. So if you're in Edwardsburg, you need to be taking cover. Though again, it looks to me like the focus of this is moving more east than it is to the northeast. But that's for the folks in the National Weather Service in northern Indiana to take care of there. That's why we're on the air right now. And by the way, if you're wondering, that's the only problem area, if you will. That's the only problem area in all of West Michigan. And there's nothing else really going on. These were a couple of really sort of rogue cells. So weren't any other kind of severe thunderstorm warnings coming out with this. This was just sort of something that popped up pretty quickly here. And you can see here, as Colin has a wider view, you can even see that area of low pressure. It looks like there's one that's spinning out over the lake. Right about there, you can see that rotation going there. That really is sort of the heart of this disturbance that's going to be moving through here tonight. So this threat for storms actually will be going away by the time we get to 10, 11 o'clock tonight. Could have some fog overnight. But this storm threat, I think once we get rid of this warning, then we'll be able to say goodbye to the threat for severe weather. And like I said, it was a bit of a surprise to see not just one, but two of these pop up. And in northern Indiana anyway, observed tornadoes on the ground, and in the case of LaGrange County anyway, some damage from tornado.
Yeah, just to have that warm front just to the south of the Michigan-Indiana line, and sometimes we can get a little bit of rotation with that. I think that was the case here. But as these storms continue to move away from the warm front, they're losing their characteristics, at least for rotation. That's what we saw with the Branch County tornado. This one kind of looking similar to what we saw in Branch County, that tornado warning that we had earlier in Branch County, where it's really weakening the further to the north and the east, not even seeing much rotation at all on our velocity right now. So This is some good news. We hope that trend continues. The National Weather Service still has this warning in effect till 6:30, I think, just as a precaution. And then we'll go ahead and see what they decide to do with it.
Well, and as Colin mentioned, as it gets further away from the warm front, it's going to be losing some of the characteristics, or at least I would say some of what is causing creating the rotation there as it gets north of that area there. And as a result, that's when probably not only are you going to see that rotation going away, but also the weakening of that system too, or the weakening of that cell. It does have until 6:30. Right now we have 6:23:35. And so we're going to have to continue. We'll continue keeping an eye on this as well. As long as the warning is out there, we do want to stay with this. just because the National Weather Service deems that this is dangerous enough to warrant a tornado warning. And so that's why we're continuing with it right now, especially around Edwardsburg. You're still in the box. The box hasn't changed at all since this warning was first issued. And so it hasn't really moved very much. But I would be surprised here if anything goes past 6:30, even if it makes it to 6:30. Likely they'll continue to hold on to it. But we're on the air right now because we do have a tornado warning. And this is what we do, because we want to make sure that everybody in this particular case in southern Cass County is alert, especially in the Edwardsburg area, southward to the Michigan-Indiana line, to the northeast of South Bend. Earlier, we had a threat, and this is how we started it, with a threat that was for Branch County. That turned out to be more of an issue for folks in LaGrange County, where spotters observed not only a tornado on the ground, but also damage. It seems like it weakened rapidly as it moved into Branch County. Good news. Hopefully this will do the same, and there won't be any kind of damage or any kind of threat beyond what we have right now in southern Cass County. But certainly until we get to 6:30, the National Weather Service will likely hold with this tornado warning for the potential, anyway, of rotation, though right now it just doesn't look very impressive. It looks to me like the center of this actually is sort of hanging out along I-80. Now it's a severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued.
And you'll notice that trend a little further to the south and east, where we were seeing a little bit of rotation earlier. But the good news is severe thunderstorm warning,
right?
Not a tornado warning.
Not a tornado warning.
Is that new warning that just got added there until 7 p.m. for Cass County.
I think if you're close to the Michigan-Indiana line in Cass County, you're likely going to have some active wind. So just keep that in mind. And even if it's not a tornado, severe thunderstorm warning, remember, means that there could be max wind gusts of 60 or greater, which could be doing some damage. So that too is something that we'll keep an eye on as we continue to work our way through. Again, so just to recap, what we have here is a tornado warning that is in effect until 6:30 for a portion of Cass County. Edwardsburg is included in that. And now a severe thunderstorm warning for a portion of Cass County as well, and also now northwest of Elkhart. The warning that had existed for Branch County is gone. It was canceled early, so there's no threat there. We're going to continue to monitor these storms here, and of course, if there are any more tornado warnings, certainly we'll be the first to let you know. But for now, Andy and Jessica have been here with us through the whole coverage. Even though they haven't said anything, they're here. And so you can take it away.
And good job to you both. And if you are in that danger zone, the Cass County area that they've been talking about, of course, stay where you are. Hopefully you're seeking shelter in an interior room. Vehicles, motorhomes are not safe places to be.
Right. And just a reminder, too, if you have any videos or pictures you'd like to share of the storm damage, we would love to also share them here on air. Just make sure you're in a safe place if you do take them.
Stay with us on air and online, WWMT.com for